Hi guys, this is Shelte, and in this video series I will try to go over each class on Turtle WoW, covering all their changes, their new abilities, and how these might affect their capabilities in both leveling, PvE and PvP, as well as how they might create new opportunities for new builds and playstyles. And in today's video, we'll be taking a closer look at my favorite class, the Hunter, here on Turtle WoW. So, our first batch of changes were successful in making Hunters scale better with their gear, with the introduction of True Shot, but there are more problems that were not touched on. These are Marksmanship power being unattached from its talent tree for the most part, and what they mean by this is, like, there are 2 talents in the Marksmanship tree, maybe 3 talents that actually make your class scale with gear. Like it has some impact, and that's just mortal shots. There's some crit, but even the crit doesn't scale with the gear. There's a little bit for the multi-shot, 15% extra damage for multi-shot, and then there's the True Shot aura. But the True Shot aura, which gave you a fixed amount of attack power, not a percentage, just a fixed amount of attack power, does also not scale with gear. So they're trying to address things like that with the new iteration of the talent tree, and I like that. Survival lacking identity, and I can understand this part because you don't really know. Like, there are many things that add let's just find the talent tree real quick. See, there are many things that add melee stuff. There's some parry shit here. This is just, I don't know, humanoid sling and separate monster sling. They addressed this later on and made it into one talent, which I prefer. Savage strikes. Mongoose bite is just, like it says, plus the mongoose bite is only useful after a dodge, which is so weak because it's a fixed amount of damage that doesn't scale with your weapon damage, so on and so forth. So there are many things that are, in a way, useless, but it's less cookie cutter, this talent tree, than the Marksmanship tree, and the Beastmaster tree is also pretty cookie cutter. There is only one correct or few correct ways. If there's only a few choices you actually have. When it comes to PvP, you'd be going like this, and anything else would probably just be dumb, right? This is stupid, this is useless. Hunter improves things, so weak. This is so weak. I have always wanted this to be like Scorpion Sting, to be some armor penetration. You put a sting on a target, reduce the target's armor by so and so, instead of stats, you know, because this is not useful in PvE, and this is also not really that useful in PvP. And I'm not just talking about the talent. I'm talking about the ability as well. The abilities are, Hunter has so many useless abilities. Arcane Shot is useless. Scorpion Sting is kind of useless unless you're a 5-hit PvPer, where you actually, if you have a Serpent Sting on a target, then you use your Scorpion Sting because you want to trap your target, because the Serpent Sting would remove the trap from the target because it's a dot, it takes damage, but if you can only apply one sting at a target, so if you shoot him with a Scorpion Sting, then you actually remove the Serpent Sting, so now you can trap him. So there's some niche with the Scorpion Sting, but that's not really why you have Scorpion Sting. You have Scorpion Sting because you want to reduce the target strength and stamina. But that's just so weird of a talent, because if you then swap to another one, then they get all their stamina back. It's like, why? I'm hoping for some very interesting changes on this talent tree. So I can understand a lot of what they're saying here. They're lacking identity, especially if it's supposed to be a melee spec, which I don't think it really is, because the last talent is actually a ranged ability. So there's just a little bit more melee woven into it. Anyway, Beast Mastery viability in raid environments due to lacking scaling. Yeah, lacking scaling on the pet, and mostly just pet dying. Basically, pet is just useless in a raid environment, because whenever a boss does AoE damage, they addressed this in TBC, which maybe was a bit over the top, because now Beast Mastery in TBC was just way too overpowered. But if they didn't give you all of the kill command and stuff like that, then it probably would have been more balance between specs. Pet choices being very limited due to some cutting way ahead of the rest. Due to some cutting. Yeah, some pets being more strong, like cats all the time. Guys. They fixed this at Wrath the Lich King. I actually like Wrath the Lich King talent trees. I hope they've done something with maybe giving pets a talent tree instead of the very old learn your pet and you have these training points, which is actually the exact same as in World of Warcraft Alpha. Back in the early days of World of Warcraft, you didn't have talent trees. You had a specific set of training points that you had to use to get specific, basically your spec. You train specific abilities, and you had a limited amount of options. There were no talent trees. So I hope they address this in some way. But pet choices being limited due to some cutting edge ahead of the rest. We'll go into detail on these issues and their respective sections. Baseline changes. Hunters now have access to unlock 2 extra stable slots, doubling the amount of pets you store in the stable at your stable master. Yeah, okay, that's nice. Like to have more options. Aim shot is now baseline, learned at level 20. Okay, interesting. I like that. Makes sense. You are a hunter after all. avoidance area of effect damage reduction has been increased to 80% and is no longer be removed when resetting your pet's abilities. There was a bug apparently before. Didn't know about that. But 80% should help your pet survive in PvE, because this is 80% AoE damage reduction. And that's pretty much what your pet was dying to constantly in raids. Renamed True Shot to Steady Shots. Okay, they're just embracing the Steady Shot meta. Yeah, I don't know what to think about that, but we'll see what they do with it in terms of talent changes and stuff. Steady Shot. Learning levels have been adjusted due to its first rank being moved into Marksmanship talent tree. Okay, so maybe this is just a new aim shot, which is spammable. So and so much damage, blah blah blah. This is added damage. At least it was. So I think it is still. And they've buffed it a little bit. Aspect of the Wolf. This was something to do with melee. Has multiple ranks that have the same mana cost, attack power, and level requirements as Aspect of the Hawk, giving melee attack power instead of ranged attack power. The current Aspect of the Wolf is now the first rank of the ability. Additionally, Aspect of the Wolf no longer prevents you from using ranged attacks and abilities. The 7th rank of Aspect of the Wolf is also acquirable out in the world instead of being trained similarly to Aspect of the Hawk, but we'll leave where you acquire it a mystery. Okay, that's fine. Leaving some mysteries in the game. Score pit's taken. Let's hope they did something interesting with this. Now only has 1 rank. It costs 10% of your base mana and now does the following. Stings the target, reducing their physical damage done by 2% and their attack speed by 10%. Sadly, not a armor penetration thing. Only 1 sting per hunter, blah blah blah. This attack speed reduction does not scale with similar effects as a Son of Fury and Frostbrand and Dream's Herald. Yeah, I don't think this is that interesting, to be honest. I'd much rather choice be some Serpent Sting that does damage, or something that reduces the target's defenses, like reduce armor. But yeah, okay, moving on. Viper Sting, burn amount of mana reduced by 15%, and now has a 6-second cooldown. This was spammable before in vanilla. You could just walk into a BG. That's what the most hated thing about Hunters. Into a Warsong Gorge or Aphibas and just putting mana burn on every fucking body. That's why I needed to have a druid or something that can abolish poison on a high enough level of PvP, because Hunter mana drain is just crazy in PvP. Wing Clip has a 6-second cooldown, now deals a percentage of your weapon damage instead of a flat value. Slow percentage, learning levels, and mana cost remain the same. Okay, that's interesting. If it has a cooldown, I hope I can still macro, because I actually don't have any more keybinds. So, unless they've removed something else. I hope I can still macro Wing Clip and Raptor Strike. Mongoose Bite no longer requires you to dodge to use it. Now deals 60% weapon damage in addition to its current flat damage and resets your auto attack swing timer. Yeah, interesting. Very, very interesting. That's a lot of extra damage for Hunter in melee. If you can use all of this while still being as strong as you were before in ranged, that's gonna be very interesting. Pet changes to aim. These changes aim to make other pet families more viable. That's good. Giving hunters more diverse pool of pets to use. Added 2 new pet families with the family-specific abilities, Serpent and Foxes. The charge is now acquired in the world, can now be acquired in the world. This is actually, I think, I can't remember if this was just a rank that was never there. I think it was. Yeah, I think it went straight from rank 3 to rank 5. So sorely needed charge rank for boars. Lightning Breath rank now acquired in the world. Raptors can now learn Dash. That's good, because you never pick a Raptor before because it couldn't learn Dash, which is the movement speed increase. Is at least in PvP, unless you wanted to give yourself. Fury's Howl focus reduced from 60 to 50 and range increased. Holy shit. Okay, that's nice. Thunderstorm now has a so-and-so threat modifier, so a lot more threat. And its cooldown reduced from 1 minute to 40 seconds, now added a 4th rank with high damage values. So we're gonna see some apes, some gorilla pets now. Focus cost reduced. Poison. This is Scorpion poison. Focus cost reduced. Cooldown reduced. And base damage increased by 20%. Shell shield attack speed. This is the turtle shell shield probably. I think so. Bite cooldown reduced from 10 to 6 seconds. Adjusted spell power and attack power scaling. Oh shit! Now pets are scaling with attack power. I don't think they were. Oh, I actually think they were. They weren't. They aren't in vanilla, but they were on Turtle WoW because they already, I think, implemented some scaling, not a lot, and apparently that's been adjusted. Poison spit. So and so much scaling. So point so and so much. That's yeah. Is that with spell power or is it with attack power? Probably both. Lightning breath. Scorpion poison for each damage tick. So this is the scaling coefficient. Just do this. You take whatever attack power you have, you times it by 0.1, and then you got the scaling. And this is per tick. Thunderstorm, bite, 1 extra damage for every 20 attack power, and claw 1 extra damage for every 42 attack power. Developable comment. This change mainly affects Beastmaster hunters, granting their pets spell and attack power with the revamped Spirit Bond talent. Interesting. Though the attack power scaling should very slightly affect other hunter pets, increasing the bites, blah blah blah, and increasing the bite and claw damage by those respective pet at level 60. What? Affect other hunter pets, increasing the bite and claw damage by 15. But this depends on how much attack power you have, so you can't say at level 60 because cure comes into account. Okay, interesting. We'll have to look at Spirit Bond, which is this one down here. I'm pretty sure it is. Once we get to the talents, because none of this is clickable. Apparently they haven't added more talents, they just changed some. I've never seen this one before. The rest I recognize, at least on the icons. They probably changed a lot with what they do, but we'll have to look into this. This specialization is near perfect flavor-wise, but lacks proper scaling for the focus of the specialization in your pet. We plan on fixing this by introducing pet scaling into the individual pet buffing talents. Interesting. This damage scaling being deep in the talent tree to avoid other specializations from acquiring them. So yeah, you have to go deep Beastmaster if you want the pet scaling. That makes sense, at least the pet scaling to this degree, because it's going to be both attack power and spell power, it seems. And if you're not Beastmaster, you won't be benefiting from the spell power. You'll only be benefiting from the attack power scaling. As far as I've read it, maybe I'm wrong about this, but this is just as far as I've read these changes. Yeah. Improved predator aspects. So this up here was just general for all hunters. Now we are diving into changes for specific pets. So I'm just going to glance over this again. They have the new aspect of the wolf, which is basically aspect of the hawk, but just for melee instead. They added some avoidance. Aim shot is now baseline. You're getting steady shot as well. Viper Sting has been nerfed. Wing Clip has been buffed in terms of damage, but nerfed in terms of cooldown. Mongoose Bite has been buffed. Now it's actually useful. You don't just have it sitting there with no reason. And then there are a lot of pet changes. So they're diving into the pets, which actually makes a lot of sense in vanilla, because pets were just not that useful late game in vanilla. Very strong for leveling, really, really weak later on in the game. Mainly just for PvP. If you want to keep somebody in combat, they were great for that purpose, but so weak, so easy to kill once you get high amounts of gear. So this is going to be interesting. Hopefully they do something with the survivability of the pets. So this seems only to be damage for pets, and if you don't want your pet to be one shot in PvP, and you actually want Beastmastery to be viable in PvP, you need also to address pet survivability. And then you'll probably say, oh, but they did the where was it? The AoE damage reduction. That's just AoE. If somebody wants to nuke your pet, he'll do single target damage on it and it'll die instantly, at least in vanilla. So hopefully they do something to address the survivability as well. That's especially some spell damage. Just it's really, really hard on pets. So right, let's get on with it. Improved predatory aspects, renamed to Swift aspect. I'll pull up the talent tree now because I need to know what this is. And we have it here. Swift. Okay, Swift aspects. This is the one. While aspect of the hawk is active, all normal ranged attacks have a 10% chance of increasing ranged attack speed by up to 15% for 12 seconds. While aspect of the wolf effects is active, all normal attacks. So this is just, it's a nerf to this talent, because it's no longer 30% attack speed. It's just up to 15% for 12 seconds, and still a 10% chance on auto attacks and any other attack. But now it applies to melee as well. But only if you're wearing the right aspect, meaning you need to wear aspect of the wolf to get the melee attack speed, and you need to be an aspect of the hawk to get the ranged attack speed. Oh shit, they did something with the health. I just had to check this. Add 30% extra stamina to your 30% of your stamina to the stamina of your pets. Increase the health of your pets. Damn, that's a lot more survivability for pets. Beast Mastery Hunter is going to be very, very easy when leveling. It's going to be a breeze. Gonna have a really strong pet. That's always the problem of having something like this so early in the talent tree, is that once you need this late game, you don't need it early game. This will trivialize the leveling process. This should have been moved down here or down here, and this should have been moved up here, because then you have actually, when you need it, then you have the scaling of the pets later on in but then of course now if it is down here, you can't get it as a marksmanship hunter or a survival hunter. But then I actually like what I like they did in Season of Disaster is giving you lone wolf, because I like the idea of being a ranger, not a hunter, just a ranger guy with a bow, maybe a dagger, and nothing else. Behind me I have a bow and a dagger hanging on the wall. So this is why it's my favorite class, or class you could say, or a character, is just like the fantasy of a ranger. Anyways, before we take a look at more talents, I want to do this as we get to it. So swift aspects, we already saw that the change reduced from 30% attack speed down to 15%, but now applies and depending on the aspect you're wearing. Developer comment: this change is done for two reasons. The first reason is smoothing the benefit of this talent, spreading its damage out for overall the same benefit in PvE scenarios, meanwhile reducing the burst granted by this talent for PvP scenarios. The second reason is that this talent was often not fully taken due to the benefit of the talent not scaling instead of the trigger chance. This change has fixed that. Yes, that is completely correct. You'd only need 1 point here to get a 1% chance of increasing your attack speed by 30% for 12 seconds. And this is bad because the extra points, the first point here is just so much more worth. You get a lot from your first point, and every consecutive, now it's double, now it's much less than double, now it's almost, the last point is almost nothing, right? It is still 1% increase, but from 1 to 2%, that's twice the amount. From 2% to 3%, that's a third, and so on. So it's not as impactful as you put more points into it, but the first point is always extremely impactful. This has been adjusted, which is sorely needed in here. So now that it scales with, instead of, they did this in Burning Crusade as well, actually. Instead of this being a 30% just for 1 point, now it's 3%, 6%, 9, 12, and 15% attack speed instead of the chance of proccing. A chance being the same, 10%. So in a way, above and a nerf, because it's more greater chance of proccing, but less attack speed from it. So it's more consistent in a way, and less all of a sudden burst. All of a sudden now I need to press all my cooldowns because I got the proc. I got the 30% extra attack speed. So now I'm pushing my rapid fire and just bursting. So yeah, that makes sense. Endurance training now also adds, that's what we saw for the pets, added a lot more stamina and 30% of your stamina. So that's the scaling part, which is, I thought they said that the scaling part would come later. That's probably the damaging scaling part. But the defensive scaling part is coming early in the talent tree, which I hope won't trivialize leveling completely, because Hunter is already easy to level in vanilla, and now they're making it, seems like they're making it a lot easier, but we'll have to see. If it's a percentage of your stamina and you don't have much stamina in the beginning, maybe that's not as impactful as I'm thinking it is, but we'll have to see. Improved Eyes of the Beast. Text changed to increase the duration of Eyes of the Beast. While channel Eyes of the Beast, your pet deals additional damage and gains increased focus. Developer comment: there is no functional change. This is done to clarify the talent description. So it's still just weird but flavorful, you could say. Talent, which is just you can take control of your pet, and then you can use your pet to do damage, and you have a little bit extra damage once you do so. But I don't really see the use this that much. I'd much rather have this changed into something completely different. But that's just my opinion. Improved aspect of the monkey renamed to improve primal aspects. Now require 3 points instead of 5 points. Dodge granted increased from blah 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 to blah blah blah. Now heals you for your melee damage while aspect of the wolf is active. Holy shit. So you're getting not lifesteal, but you're getting healing while in aspect of the monkey, which is now a lot better. Like, I like it being turned into a 3-point talent instead of 5 points. Now this is really impactful for PvP, and giving you some healing also for PvP is quite nice, giving you a lot of sustainability. Developer comment: this talent should now be more flexible to acquire with the reduced talent requirement. Additionally, it now serves as sustain for melee hunters, as hunters normally don't need it due to being far away from the enemies and avoiding area of effect damage. Oh, so they're thinking mostly in terms of PvE. They're thinking we need to add something healing, because they do mob bosses in range do damage in melee range and not so much in range. So that's why we need the healing for the hunter. But I hope this is not gonna get too powerful in PvP, because that's all that I'm thinking about. Thick hide now also does a lot more armor. No, not a lot more. I'm sorry. It was 30 before, right? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 10. Yeah, that was 30 before, so that's 6% more armor. So that's not that big of a deal, but it's still more impactful. But this is usually a talent that late game you would probably skip, because it's not really that impactful, but it's very good for leveling, especially if you get pets that has a high armor coefficient already, then it really bumps up the armor a lot. This is also a thing with pets, and I've been wondering why people generally don't accept pets as tanks, because you can actually use a pet like the what's it called, owl, and carrion bird is actually even better because it has armor scaling coefficient. I'll make a video about this, but pets are in vanilla, not just here in Turtle Wow, but in vanilla in general, are great tanks if you have Screech, which is acquired from owls and carrion birds who can learn Screech and have some of them have Screech on them. That's an AoE taunt or it's an AoE threat builder. It applies to all mobs around it, reduces their attack power, and it generates a lot of threat for the pet. I wish Turtle would double down maybe on a little bit of pet tanking, because in dungeons, there's always need for tanks, right? So in dungeons, it would be nice if Hunter could do something, let's say Beastmaster Hunter was also could help with the tanking part in PvE. So, but you can actually do this. It's just most people don't think it's effective until they try to come into a dungeon with me, and then they see they can't even pull threat, and I pull threat from the warrior and stuff like that with my pet. So it's actually quite powerful, and it's going to be more powerful in here in Turtle WoW now with the pet changes. New talent, Elusiveness. Third row, 2 points. Add some resistance to your pets and increase the dodge chance of your pets. Okay, but that is somewhat similar. This is this one, the new one. Somewhat similar to the Burning Crusade with the pet dodge. It has a talent there. Does the same, I think, but that's just later on in the talent tree. So and it's interesting, your resistance, it adds 40 resistance to the resistance of your pets. So maybe you still need to train, or you can still train resistance with your pet, but now this is just extra resistance to make the pet stronger against casters, especially in PvP. It's I think the pet needs some help against spells. Pathfinding removed and integrated into Bestial Swiftness. Okay, so now this is aspect of the cheetah and your pet's movement speed. That's nice. Aspect of the cheetah and aspect of the pack is I like having the movement speed increase. And if you're skilled, you are swapping in and out of this aspect while in PvP. You just gotta swap out of it the second before you get hit by a spell or some ability. Bestial Swiftness now also increase the attack speed bonus of your aspect of the cheetah. Increases the attack speed. Increase the speed bonus, sorry. Not attack speed. Increase the speed bonus of your aspect. Oh, that's the one I just read. The pathfinding talent got merged into the first capstone of the Beastmaster tree to open a room for elusiveness and give some usefulness. Even outdoor. Sorry, I'm getting tired now. Even outdoor movement speed increase is inactive. Okay, but is that because this only works when you're outdoor? Increase the outdoor movement speed. I hate that. Just make it constant. Just remove the druids have the same thing with their tiger form, whatever it's called, feral cat form, where as soon as they're indoors, they don't move as quick as when they're outdoors. I think it's confusing. I think they should just remove this and make it a constant thing, and then maybe just nerf it. If they then think, okay, but then that's too much, okay, then just nerf it a little bit. Give it a 15% instead. Not for pets. I think it's not really that impactful for pets, but it's just so weird that your pet moves faster when it's outside, and as soon as you go into the flag room in Warsong Gulch, or you're running up the thing in the middle, the tunnel, then it's slower. I don't get that. Anyway, improved men pet now also increase the amount of heal your pet, the amount you heal your pet with men pet by 20 and 40%. Yeah. Okay. I think this was just weird in vanilla because it's like 15% for the first, like the chance of cleansing, and then 100% or something crazy, or 50% on the second one or something. Yeah, it's 15% chance to remove a disease, and then it goes from 15%. I think it goes straight to it goes to 50%, from 15 to 50. So the second point is sorely needed, but now it's a 100% chance of removing curse, disease, magic, or poison, and also increases a lot of the effectiveness of men pet. Shit, it's gonna be crazy when leveling Hunter. It's gonna be a lot more effective tanking for dungeons. You can probably solo stuff now. I don't want to, maybe the developers are going to see my video and they're going to think, oh, he's probably right, now we need to nerf everything, which I don't want, but it's a lot. It is a lot. This is the same. Seems like the same. This was changed. And this is the same. Okay, now I shouldn't go like this. I should go with this, because then we can read the developer notes as well. New talent, Bestial Precision. 2 points increase physical hit chance. Add spell hit chance of your pets. Okay, nice. That's good, because the pet was missing in raids. Of course, this is mostly for PvE, but some increase for, this is the one, physical and spell hit chance. It says 6% here, but it says 6. Oh, okay, yeah, that's because this is the first point. No, it isn't. That's gotta be a bug. My autistic brain found the first bug. 2 to 4 and 3 to 6. That's been adjusted to 4 to 8 and 6 to 12. So hopefully we'll get this version, but we'll see. Pets generally struggle with hitting their targets in raid environment due to lacking any source of hit chance gain, especially if you're a Beastmaster, of course. You get hit chance from gear, but that doesn't scale to the pet, apparently. They could just have done that instead, but apparently they chose this route with the talents specifically for that. This talent aims to alleviate the issue. We've gone light with the amount of hit granted, but might revisit the values depending on how the talent performs. Do note that the spell hit chance also applies to Intimidation, which is the stun, and Growl threat generation ability. So greater chance of hitting with Growl and Intimidation, which is very nice because you don't want to miss your only stun, which is on 3-minute cooldown, as far as I remember. So having a chance to hit with this is needed. Oh, and this has also been changed. We'll read that. Intimidation. Okay, first Intimidation. That's the threat part. Let's see what they write to this increase the threat, blah, 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 blah. And threat buff is applied even if the stun component is resisted. Okay, so you're getting more threat even if the stun is resisted now. And you're getting the threat for 8 seconds and it's applying a 50% increase in threat. Common Intimidation has issues being unreliable due to the entire ability. Yes, your pet has to be close to the target. So there's a run time. If your pet is at your feet, at your side, you send your pet in, it's not instant stun like most of their abilities are. So very unreliable. If the pet gets slowed or stunned or rooted, then it's just a waste. Both the threat and the stun component, yes, depending on whether it successfully lands on the target or not. To alleviate this, we have guaranteed that the pet gains a threat generation buff, even if the stun component is resisted or the target is immune to it. In addition to this, moving this effect to a percentage allows the talent's threat generation to properly scale with the pet's power. Right. Buff. Okay. Nice. Some extra threat. Bestial Discipline. Text changed to increase focus regeneration by so and so much per each tick. This is also not the same values. Maybe they buffed it. Because up here they say that they are sticking with the lower values first. And then they might revisit to increase the values. So I think what we're getting in the talent trees are the updated versions. Because as you see here, this one is a lot lower, and then they might revisit it and make it 4 to 6 and then 6 to 12 percent. And this one is 7 and then 15 each tick. But in here it says 2 and 5, and I think this makes more sense if it should be worth the talent point investment, right? Need more focus for the pet. Okay, interesting. Spirit Bond now grants your pet melee attack power equal to so and so much of your ranged attack power and spell power equal to so and so much of your ranged attack power. Okay, so it's just ranged attack power, but it gains spell power equal to some amount of your ranged attack power. It's funny that they say ranged attack power. So what about melee hunter? But maybe a melee hunter just wants to go with agility anyway, so it's fine that it only scales off of ranged attack power. But if a melee hunter wanted to go for strength, which would anyway be stupid because a hunter only gets 1 attack power per strength, 1 melee attack power per strength, and it also gets 1 melee attack power per agility, but 2 ranged attack power. So you'd always want to go with agility instead of strength. But anyway, if a hunter so chooses to go with strength, then the pet will not scale as much when it comes to that gearing for strength. Something to note, right? The interval between heals reduced from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. Moved from what? Interval between heals 5 seconds. Moved from the 6th row. Okay, I don't understand that. What heals? The interval between the heals. Okay, this talent serves as the main scaling component of the specialization, granting a portion of your attack power to them as melee attack power and spell power. In addition to this, the periodic healing portion of the talent has been buffed to trigger twice as often. Oh, that's the thing. Yeah. Because before it only had some healing thing, which was, I did the math on this. It was so little, it was absolutely useless. You should never pick this talent in vanilla. This is so bad in vanilla. If you actually sit down and you do the math on this, you figure out it's not even 1 hit from a mob. So weak. By the time it takes you to kill a mob, you've gained nothing basically. So yeah, this is useless as it is in vanilla, completely useless. They fixed that in here. Now it is so it's still bad, but 2% every 5 seconds is twice as much as every 10 seconds. So now it is maybe a few auto attacks you save, but I'm like, you're already making the pet so much stronger. This is the second part of this talent isn't the reason you should pick it. It's definitely for the first part, which is the scaling part. The second part is just keeping the same flavor. It's not gonna save your pet, I think, in any meaningful way, unless they just give the pet a sane amount of health, which they are in a way. So maybe it is gonna count for more. Maybe hopefully they're gonna buff Outworld mob damage to compensate for all the changes they're making, because we still want the world to be dangerous, right? We still want the world to be very dangerous. This hasn't changed. Nope, that's exactly the same. You want to invest 4 points into this one to give your pet an 80% chance to gain 30% attack speed for 8 seconds after dealing crit. And then Bestial Ref seems like it's the same. Damage increase reduced. Oh, did I read something? Yeah, they did change it. They nerfed it. They absolutely nerfed it. But that makes sense because you're giving so much scaling, so they kind of have to nerf it. So what would you pick in here? You would, for PvE, you'd go with this, of course. And you'd probably go with this. No, what? Did I not read something correct? Adds of your armor to your pet and increase the pet's armor value. I think I skipped over this or didn't understand it correctly. Big height of your armor value and the armor value of your pets. I stand corrected. That's a lot more armor. Holy shit. And this is scaling. So the more armor you have, the more armor your pet has. Okay. That's strong against melee classes, especially warriors who just want to slap your pet if you send it into them and generate some rage. Now it's going to be a lot tougher to bring down the pet. So I actually want this one. You definitely probably also want, well, for PvE, that's probably not very useful unless you're thinking about dungeons and stuff like that. But I'm thinking about raids, and you probably go with this, of course. This, not going to go with this. You definitely need 2 points in here for sure. And you need, you're only going to get, if you want to save your points and only invest 31 points, you're not going to get the full effect of Frenzy. But if your pet is attacking fast enough, health of extra focus, it probably can. Then maybe you can have an uptime, constant uptime of this one. After all, it is 60% chance to increase the attack speed after crits. And if the crits are also scaling a little bit better and it's not just attack power, it seems like it's only attack power, it's only damage, not crit chance. So we'll have to see if 3 points is enough, or else you'll just have to put 32 points in here. So you can go full PvE without like missing much, except for this one and some armor, and get the rest here. You can get to this point here, right? Mortal shots, side shot and ranged attack. There's so much new stuff, guys. So much new stuff we need to go over, and that's interesting. I hope that is something with Hunter's Mark. Yeah. So now you have to like, you can't get Hawkeye anymore as Beastmaster. I'm getting ahead of myself, guys. I need to stop because I need to actually do this in a mannerly way, like an orderly way, taking all the things about Beastmaster, and then we move on to Marksmanship. But I'm just so interested and excited about all the changes. So it's gonna be so fucking awesome to have the perfect, the perfect world. Because that's what I think the Turtle Wild team did. They opened up for all the zones that we wanted since vanilla. We wanted just not TBC. We wanted expansion of the existing world, not a new level cap, not a new completely revamp of the game and a new end game zone where the previous one becomes irrelevant. We want everything to stay relevant, and this is what Turtle Wild does. So it's so exciting to see all the changes that they've made in here. So let's move on to Marksmanship. So let's read the words. With the words of the developers, there are no performance nor flavor issues with Marksmanship, but there are issues that impact other specializations. The main culprit is the talent tree. You get most of your power by the time you reach 4th row and get mortal shots. That's what I said before. Mortal shots is the real powerhouse of Marksmanship, with the second and last capstone talents being largely irrelevant in raid environments. The former being useful for player combat and the latter lacking any sort of scaling, making it fall off in power as you progress throughout the rating tiers. While the specialization does well even with these issues, this poses a problem now that we are probably touching up on the other specializations, where the lack of talent reliance for scaling would divert Marksmanship players to only take surface level talents and go deeper into other trees, making them even stronger than before, while being only Marksmanship in definition, meaning that you would only go for, usually as you approach endgame here, you'd stop around here. Maybe you'd take a scatter shot if you want to do PvP, and then you'd go the rest down to lightning reflex, especially once you reach max gear. But no, like this is not. There's a little bit of scaling on that one, but it's not much. This is just a flat attack power. So they changed that. For this reason, we've added a few more powerful talents deeper below in the talent tree to incentivize going deeper into it, and allowing their final capstone talent to remain relevant in all stages of the end game with a scaling addition. So now it's probably 10% more attack power or something like in TBC. Moved from the 2nd row to the 3rd row. Improved Marksman's Hunter's Mark now requires 3 points instead of 5 points, and moved to the 2nd instead of 3rd row. What? It's not in the 2nd row. Still in the 3rd row, my guy. 1, 2, 3, 3rd. Oh, it's moved from the 2nd to the 3rd. Sorry, I'm retarded. Right. Improved Serpent Sting renamed to Improved Serpent Sting renamed to Improved Sting. Yes. And now, blah, blah, blah. Damage increase to Serpent Sting. Instead of 10%, it's 30%. Now also the amount of mana drained by Viper Sting, but they nerfed the Viper Sting earlier, as we saw. So this is just to make up for the nerf, probably. Or not even. Because there was a 15% nerf, I think, wasn't it? Just need to check real quick. Yeah, it was a 15%. And a cooldown. So, but it was overpowered anyway, so it's fine that they nerf it a little bit. I don't want to run around constantly stinging people with Viper Sting, and that'd be my only role in PvP. So I got ahead of myself. There we are. This talent has seen a big lift in power due to older version being quite underwhelming. Yes, definitely. Additionally, it was raised up as it has synergy with Survival's Poison Nettle lacing talent. Interesting. I haven't come to this part yet, but if I'm just gonna guess, this hopefully does give some scaling to Serpent Sting, because even 30%, so that's not enough to make it valuable in endgame, in my opinion. Still just a very, very weak, unless there need to be some sort of scaling to Serpent Sting if it's to be useful. So yeah, improved Scorpion Sting requires 2 points instead of 3, remove from 5th row to 3rd row, and it reduces enemy attack speed by an additional 10% and reduces their damage done by an additional 2% of reducing stamina instead of reducing stamina by a percentage of strength reduced. What? Okay. Developer comment. This change has been done due to the Scorpion Sting rework. Refer to the baseline changes section. Blah blah blah. After taking this talent, attack speed reduction is increased to 20%, and physical damage reduction is increased to 4%. So that's actually now quite strong against maybe something like a warrior, somebody wielding a dual wielding weapon and relying a lot of it on auto attacks, especially for PvE. I just don't like this version of Scorpion Sting. I would much rather prefer something, I don't know, something else. I don't, this is just, you can clearly see that this is just meant for PvE. It's clear to me that this is for bosses. You want to have this on a boss because that's a lot less damage your tank is taking with this part especially. And I'm getting the feeling this is going to be mandatory for PvE, and I don't like that. I would much rather have something like the Rogue's Exposed Weakness on a Sting, because that has usefulness in PvP as well, to a greater degree than this, in my opinion. And it's more interesting. More interesting trying to land a Scorpion Sting on a target before you do an aim shot, for the aim shot to hit a lot harder. I hope they do something with Arcane Shot as well, because that's a dead shot, in my opinion. It's so useless. But we'll get to that. New talent, Steady Shot, 3rd row capstone, a precise shot with a ranged weapon that strikes the target for so much additional, costs so much mana, 1 second cast time, this range. Yep, standard. That's a fast cast time. That's twice as fast as the original Steady Shot. I think that was a 2-second cast. Am I right? Or is it 1.5? Anyway, developer note, Steady Shot works the exact same way as True Shot currently does, but it has been moved to the first capstone of the Marksmanship tree instead of Aim Shot, which is now baseline. So this is now a, not something, because Intel, while before this was just something you learned at a specific level, and then it was just a baseline spell. Now they switched it. So this is the one you talent into, while Aim Shot is the baseline. And that's, in my opinion, that makes a lot more sense, because you're relying much more on your shots in PvE when it comes to damage than you do than you rely on your aim shot. So this is really leaning into the ranger thing. Just hope that this is not your entire rotation. Hawkeye now requires 2 points instead of 3 points, moved from 3rd row to 4th row. Let's just take a look at the talents, because actually that was what I wanted to do from the beginning. We just already took a look at it before. This is the same. This is the same. This has been changed to more damage and more mana drain. But it's not enough for it to be impactful, in my opinion. I haven't tested it. Given that I haven't tested this, I just think that if it's not scaling, it's not much. This was reduced to 3 points instead of 5 points, and it's the same. I want to say it's the same amount. Yep, it's the same amount, just less points. And it's so it's still useless. Basically, it's like, I think, does it give you 100 attack power or something? 110 attack power, 10% extra. So 20% or 20 more attack power. That's 10 more agility. I'm like, is it really worth it? Not compared to this. Not compared to Scorpion Sting. Make something more interesting with this, I think. Yeah, they added. I haven't gotten to this I haven't gotten to Swift Shot yet, but I can see already that the only thing they changed is they reduced the amount of points, and they added Aim Shot to this. So Aim Shot's cooldown is also affected by this. Swift Shots, not only Arcane Shot. Improved Arcane Shot, renamed Swift Shot, now requires 3 points instead of 5, and it reduces the cooldown of Aim Shot in addition to Arcane Shot. And it was Hawkeye I was looking at before. Hawkeye, 2 talents instead of 3. The talent Piercing Shots, 5th row, 2 points. Your critical, aimed, and steady and multi-shot cause the target to bleed. Interesting. For 20% of damage that. Oh god, this is horrible for trapping. This is taken from Wrath of the Lich King. And it's just so bad for PvP, because you want to be able to scattershot and trap, which is already bad because scattershot and trap shares diminishing returns. So basically you want to trap without scattershot, but this is not good unless they do something with trapping, because basically what we need is traps to be immune to damage for this to have any use. So that this doesn't break traps. That's how you can't really use these abilities in PvP, because then you can trap the target for 8 seconds, and that's gonna be bad. Developer comment: the damage over time applied by critical hits functions like, oh, it's a critical. Yeah, critical. Okay. Functions like Warrior's Deep Wounds talent, but should be more effective in general due to this effect being limited to abilities that hit harder and not being triggered by auto attacks that reset the more powerful version of the bleed, hence the damage percentage being lower than Deep Wounds. Alright, makes sense. But doesn't make sense for PvP, sadly. Sadly, there's a lot of focus on PvE. It's clear to me, a lot of focus on PvE and not much thought into how will this affect PvP, as far as I can tell. I haven't read everything yet. New talent. Improved steady shot. Increase the damage done by a steady shot by 30 and 25%. That's not much because the baseline damage of steady shot is very, very low. It gains 60% more damage, so 25% plus 60 is not. It's less than 25 damage, so not really that much. Not that impactful. This talent. This is the main talent that separates Beast Mastery. The Beast Mastery steady shot from Marksmanship steady shot, as the former cannot get this talent if they have the last capstone, increasing its damage quite a bit. How are you saying that's increasing the damage quite a bit when it's just 60 damage? Maybe because of the scaling and how it works. It's additional to your, is it added on to your existing damage, your existing range damage? But yes. Steady shot, blah, blah, blah. Yes. New talent, Endless Quiver. Your ranged attacks have a blah, blah, blah chance to fire an additional shot. This shot does not spend. So it is actually taking a lot from Wrath of the Lich King. It is taking really a lot from Wrath of the Lich King. This effect can trigger from your auto attacks, arcane shot, steady shot, and multi-shot. Does not reset your auto shot timer. That's good. True shot now has scaling component. In addition, a flat attack power. The flat attack power has been nerfed to compensate for this. Okay, so 5% extra attack power, but nerfed from 100% down to 55%. This change allows True Shot R to stay relevant as its recipients get better gear, keeping its powerful utility buff. We've opted to keep part of the talent as a flat attack power, increasing as making it entirely percentage scaling would make it weaker for less gear players. Yes, that's correct. And note the scaling is dependent on the recipient's gear and not based on your attack power. Okay, interesting. So here's my problem with this. It seems like steady shot is the same like one button rotation that you're going to do in PvE, and nothing's been said or done about arcane shot, which is just a leveling thing, and as soon as you reach level 60 you just remove it. There's no use of having it on your spell bar, because especially now because you have steady shot. Personally, I would much rather have seen steady shot not be in the game and then added scaling to arcane shot. So remove steady shot, add scaling to arcane shot. I think that would be more interesting, and then do something extra with arcane shot, like maybe for every arcane shot on the target, maybe it applies a buff to your next aimed shot or something. So you want to do a couple of arcane shots, and then your aimed shot is going to hit a lot harder or have some armor penetration, or I don't know, just something interesting so it actually makes a rotation, not just a one button spam. And also for PvE, maybe that's going to be too overpowered, because at least on steady shot you need to stand still because it has a 1 second. But if it's spammable, I don't know if it's what's going to be more powerful. I like the old rotation. I like having to do aim shot, multi-shot, auto shot, and I wish that would just be meaningful to also have arcane shot into that rotation. And arcane shot is actually very interesting already because it's a spell, and you see the tier 2.5 gear, the AQ gear, has stats that increase the damage of arcane shot. I haven't looked into the set on Turtle. Maybe they did something with arcane shot on the gear wise. Maybe they added a lot of like spell power coefficient is completely changed with the arcane shot, but I don't think it is. So correct me if I'm wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I just wish to see arcane shot done something interesting with that, especially for PvP. Because if you think about it, the hunter is only now a completely physical damage class, and doesn't have anything that's spell power focused or that penetrates armor. So you're gonna be extremely weak against plate geared classes wearing shields. You're not going to do any damage to those, and they address that in a way in not only in Burning Crusade but also especially in Wrath of the Lich King with Chimera shot and explosive shot, making hunters formidable in every avenue of PvP, like against every type of class, because they had some shots that actually penetrated armor, and it did some damage to classes that weren't heavy on armor. So yeah, that's just my take. That's what I would have loved to see, but maybe they will change stuff. Who knows? Maybe they watch my videos and I get them to think about the arcane shot a little bit more. Moving on to survival let's just take a look at the talents before we go on. This was the improved steady shot. This was the piercing shots that increase, that does some bleed damage. That depends on your crits with aimed, steady, and mortal shots. But they do overlap each other. It seems like they said that they just don't overlap with your auto shots, but a crit from aim shot, and if you then after that crit with steady shot, is that going to replace the aim shot damage over time applied by critical hits? Functions like warrior deep wounds talent, but should be more effective in general due to this effect being limited to abilities that hit harder and not being triggered by auto attacks that reset the more powerful version of the bleed. Yeah, so I don't know how much damage the steady shot does, but it's going to be less damage than the aim shot for sure, and it's probably also going to be less damage than the multi shots. So what do? You just not care. You probably not care. But it's a shame because if your aim shot crits and then straight after your steady shot is gonna crit, then it's gonna overlap with the aim shot and you're only gonna apply the 20% from the steady shot. So yeah. Yep, interesting. You'll probably skip this one completely for PvP. You wouldn't want that for PvP. Let's try to make a PvP focused build. Okay, I don't even have that many points. Let's start over. This is for PvP. Probably wouldn't go for this, honestly. I don't know. Maybe I would. That's a difficult decision between these two. Okay. This is just too little, so I wouldn't even bother. And this is not any impactful either. This is a must-have, and I think this is also a must-have. Scatter shot, of course. I think this is more impactful than this, and this is more impactful than this. I don't see the great. Maybe I'm just interpreting things wrong, but I don't see the very impactful thing about this. Because how much extra damage is that? That 15 extra damage on your steady shot, and maybe this is still not as impactful as lightning reflexes. So maybe you'd still go for PvP with a combination of. But now then you're missing. You can't get lightning reflexes and scattershot, can you? Because that's been moved down, scattershot. Yeah, it has. It's been moved down a row. Or no, it's the same row. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, we'll have to look more into this. But you're going to be missing Hawkeye or 2 points in mortal shots then, right? Yeah, and you probably want the mortal strikes. That's a lot of damage. But then again, this is also a lot of range. I haven't come to this part yet. Mana cost. Useless. It's useful for PvE. Again, PvE focus. It's the same. That's the same. Oh no, that's 3 points now instead of 5. So that's nice. I'm getting ahead of myself again. Sorry. We move on to survival. I've given my 2 cents on marksmanship. I'd love to see more talent here. Maybe even all the way up here because you get arcane shot early. And I would love to see some scaling for arcane shot. Just put a talent here that makes arcane shot scale with, or here makes arcane shot scale with attack power, or better scaling with spell power. Make it even more interesting. Go for spell power hunter. Probably not. Then you would need more spell power abilities, but you get my drift. Do something for arcane shot. The specialization has seen most changes out of all the hunter specialization, as it lacked a proper identity that differentiates it from the other two. To alleviate this, we've given survival a near complete makeover, branding it as the new melee hunter archetype, preferring to be a close-up with their pet and traps in the thick of combat. For this reason, there are quite a few new talents and adjustments to others to support this. There have also been changes to Mongoose Bite and Wing Clip to support this. Yes, we read that earlier. They now scale with your damage, which can be found in the baseline changes section. The player combat-oriented builds that went into this tree should work the same way as they did before, as the majority of these talents were untouched for the playstyle. The player combat-oriented builds that went into this tree. Okay, so if you were going for a hybrid between marksmanship, so you're still a ranged hunter. Say you're a ranged hunter, you want to go into marksmanship. What I understand from this text is that you can still get the same benefits from the survival tree as you did before. So you still want to, for PvP, probably go into survival, while for full-on PvE, full marksmanship tree, if you want to be a ranger, would be the play. So interesting. Superior strikes removed and integrated into rapid strikes. Superior strikes removed. So that's probably something they added early on in the Turtle WoW. I could probably just log into my hunter just to take a look, show you guys what they've changed. So talents. That's the superior strikes. Reduce the cooldown on rapid strike and Mongoose Bite up to 1 second when it has all 5 points. That's been moved into or embedded into what? I need to read that again. Superior strikes removed and integrated into rapid strikes. Rapid strikes. That's later on then. Rapid strikes. So that's your rapid fire ability now also increase your melee attack speed by the same amount, and the cooldown of your rapid strike and Mongoose Bite abilities has been reduced. So now you don't get your counter attack anymore, which was great with deterrence, because then you would for sure be able to lock down a melee class for 5 seconds and get back in distance. but since you won't be needing distance anymore because you're a melee hunter, they want to change this, make rapid fire scale with attack melee attack speed as well, and make your Raptor Strike and Mongoose Bite abilities reduced cooldown. And what is the cooldown? Well, Raptor Strike is a 6-second cooldown, and Mongoose Bite is a 5-second cooldown, so it's going to be a 4-second, and then Raptor is going to be a 5-second. That'll be crazy. BD Hunter is going to be very interesting in here. And this has also been changed to a 3-point talent, which was a 5-point before, so it's actually quite good as well. Or actually, maybe not, because they added a cooldown to Wing Clip, so now you can't spam it anymore. So those 20% chance of locking down an enemy is now much worse than before. So for this talent to be viable, they need to double the chance. Maybe make it a 50% chance of locking down the enemy, since it's a 6-second cooldown now. So it should be a high chance, maybe even more. Or else that could actually help Marksmanship a lot in PvP, making it 100% chance to lock down an enemy. But maybe that would be too overpowered. I'm just thinking with a 6-second cooldown on Wing Clip, this talent is really bad now. But we move on. Resourcefulness, first row, 5 points, reduce the mana cost of traps and melee abilities. That's this one up here. That's not that interesting. It's probably very good for long fights in PvE. Then you save a lot of mana in the long term. But for PvP, it's useless. Basically, you wouldn't want to go for this. Rather have these two. Deflection renamed to Swift Reflexes. Now requires 2 points instead of 5 points, but grants 2 melee and ranged attack speed and 2 parry instead of 5. Oh, what? Oh, I didn't even see that. Parry and attack speed by 2%. Yep, interesting. Deflection renamed to Swift Reflexes. Now requires 2 points instead of 5. Now grants 2. Oh, that's the one I just read. Savage Strikes reduce the critical strike chance, increase. Okay. Now affects all melee abilities. So instead of only being Mongoose Bite and Raptor Strike, and then it being 20% chance to it's now on also auto attacks, all melee abilities. No, not auto attacks, all melee abilities. So abilities meaning Wing Clip as well. So that's a nerf for sure. This talent had to be tuned down considerably due to there being more viable weapon strikes and the increase being absurdly high. Yes, that's true. That is true. It should now be equal to similar talents that increase your critical chance by up to 5%. True, but it's only on abilities. So it's seems to be not on melee attacks, but on Wing Clip, Raptor Strike, Mongoose Bite. Here it is, melee abilities. So maybe they mean just all melee attacks. Maybe they wanted to say attacks, and it actually is on your auto attacks as well. Then it would be great. But as I understand it, it says abilities, so meaning something that you press. Yeah. Savage Strikes affect Raptor Strike, Mongoose Bite, Carve, and Wing Clip. Okay, it's because getting another ability. Carve. Just from Season of Disaster. Carve. A sweeping strike that strikes up to 5 enemies in an 8-yard cone in front of you for 60% weapon damage. This ability shares cooldown with multi-shot. Now I'm interested in, does Marksmanship have something that does AoE damage other than just multi-shot? And I know that they have Volley, but Volley has a 1-minute cooldown, so that's useless. And they didn't do anything with Volley. It's the exact same. They need to drastically reduce the cooldown of Volley and make it cost a lot less mana and stuff, because do I even have the highest rank? No, I don't. Because a 1-minute cooldown is just bad, real bad. But maybe they want some different flavor thing. Or Hunter ranged is just only single target, as well as Beastmaster, and Survival is the multi-target. I don't know what to think about that. We still get deterrence, and deterrence has actually been changed a little bit on Third WoW. Maybe it hasn't. I thought it had been changed. Of course, I don't have it. I thought actually it was changed to a 3-minute cooldown instead of a 5-minute cooldown, but it says 5-minute cooldown, so maybe not. Maybe I'm confusing. Yeah, I am. It's been changed in Season of Disaster. That's where it's been changed. So in Season of Disaster, meaning Season of Discovery, it has a 3-minute cooldown. This is the 5-minute cooldown, probably. We'll see. Improved Wing Clip requires 3 points instead of 5. Yes, we saw that before. Clever Traps removed and integrated into Trap Mastery. Trap Mastery, there. Increase the duration of Frost Trap effects and the damage of Fire Trap effects by 30%. Increase the chance enemies resist trap by up to... Holy shit, that's a lot. 10%. I think it's a lot less. Yeah. No, sorry. That is the same. Chance to resist traps, 10%. And this is 30% duration and 30% more damage to Immolation Explosive Trap. Now it just says Fire Trap because that's covering both trap types. And that's integrated into the same. New talent, Planning Ahead. The duration of your Frost Trap effects and the damage of your Fire Trap effects are increased by 25%. If the traps are not triggered for the first 5 seconds, after being placed. Okay, that's different. This talent rewards placing your traps ahead of time before you engage a creature or in PvP. It might not make sense at a glance, as you need to be out of combat to place a trap, but it becomes relevant with feigned death trapping and the new Untamed Trapper Capstone. That's probably a talent that makes you be able to trap outside of combat or inside of combat. Now I'm very curious. I'm very, very curious. I need to find out these two now. I need to. Planning ahead, the duration of your frost trap and damage of your, was that the one we saw before? This one is the same survivalist. It's always been, right? That's the one. Duration not triggered for the first 5 seconds. That's horrible. Interesting. This is a very interesting talent. Your Mongoose Bite and triggered fire traps. Now apply your high strength Serpent Sting for 40% of the duration. So you don't need to go out to the distance and then apply Serpent Sting. So this has some synergy with this, but it's still weak unless they're scaling. This is the same. This is the one we read before. Trap Mastery. Increase the duration of frost trap effects. Fire trap. So this is the one. Okay, you need to place them first, and then you gain 25% more damage and duration. Well, no, duration is only on your frost trap, and damage is on your fire trap. 25% plus the 30% you get from this talent here, and this is basically your mortal strikes embedded into your killer instinct. Untamed Trapper. I need to find out. Your fire traps damage is now increased. I mean, and allows you to use traps in combat. Holy shit. Okay, so this is definitely this is going to be the thing to do for PvP. PvP is going to be survival hunter. Whether you are a ranged hunter or a melee hunter, you'd want to do survival. And I'm not sure if I actually like this. So I'm losing Scattershot, but I'm gaining traps being able to be used in combat. And if they don't change anything about traps, it's a 15-second cooldown. So we have the trap horror that we have in Season of Disaster, where I can keep my frost trap. I can put 6 frost traps down before they run out. And with entrapment put on top of all that, you can stop an entire army as one hunter. One hunter can stop one entire army. This is still 15-second cooldown on traps. You can now place them in combat. You don't need feign death, and it's gonna get nerfed. That is gonna get nerfed somehow. They're gonna make it so that you can only have 1 trap up at a time or something like that. Because else in PvP, this is going to be a fucking mess. I can guarantee that. Already, what I do in PvP in Alterac Valley is right as they come into Drek, I go to each side, I place a trap, I wait 15 seconds, I place a trap on the other end, and then I wait 15 seconds, I place another trap and another trap, and then I can have 4 traps going as long as I'm out of combat. But that takes skill to be out of combat for all that time. Well, now in any battleground, any hunter, any survival hunter can be out of combat all the time. So imagine like 3 or 4 hunters in, let's say, Rafi Bassin or something, even Alterac, any battleground for that matter. They can, each of them can easily keep 4 frost traps going, especially with the increased duration of traps, which is a little bit less than the 30% from clever traps, because the duration is increased by 25% instead, right? Yeah. No, it's more, because it's planning combined with trap mastery, because trap mastery also increased the duration of traps by 30% plus 25% if it's not triggered. So the first trap you place, goddamn, turtle devs, I'm sorry, but I don't think you thought this one through. I do not think that you thought this one through. Not for PvP, at least. It's funny. Apparently, they haven't been playing Season of Disaster. Because this is the exact same thing they did in Season of Disaster. And it turned out horribly. They had to nerf it somehow. And the way they chose to nerf it is to, okay, you have these runes, but there are these exceptions. So you don't really understand the runes anymore because they're saying 2 different things, which is what created this mess in the first place, because people don't think, or maybe they need me on the team. I'm so in tune with the hunter class, in my personal arrogant opinion, that I think I know a lot of what I'm talking about when it comes to hunter and synergy between spells and abilities and in PvE, but also in PvP. I've raided and I've competed on a high level in both PvE and PvP. So yeah. Right. That's gonna be interesting to see how this pans out. But again, I know for certain that's one thing that's better about Turtle WoW compared to Season of Horror, is that the Turtle WoW team, at least they address things, and I think they address them promptly. Like, we're not going to wait until next patch from a year from now before they address the issues. They're going to patch things really, really fast and make changes really, really fast depending on the community feedback. And here is the community, or at least my feedback. I'm worried. I'm worried about PvP. I'm worried about PvP with this Untamed Trapper. Maybe it's unwarranted. Who knows? Maybe it's not as bad as I think it could be, or it will be with the entrapment. But I'd rather not see them nerf this. Instead, I don't find this. I find it I don't like it, to be honest. Because I feel like you're forced down here if you're a PvPer. And when I play the survival, when I play hunter, I like the ranger archetype. But I feel like that I'm gimping myself by taking piercing shots, because then my traps won't work. But that's a lot of damage, right? 20% of what does an aim shot crit for? It crits for 2,000. That's a lot of damage then. 20% of that. So I feel like this is sad to be missing this for PvP. I am getting stronger in melee, even if I go deep into marksmanship, but I'll be missing Untamed Trapper, which in PvP will be like crazy strong. Being able to constantly put down a freezing trap is very, very strong, right? I need deterrence for sure. Hopefully they bring it down to 3-minute cooldown. That will help the survivability of Hunter. But also, I wish that they gave the Hunter, maybe not a bubble, but like in retail, they have Turtle Shell. Hunter is, this parry only works against melee, but Hunter struggles the most against mages, priests, shadow priests specifically. And I don't see anything other than Beast Mastery being able to bring down a what's it called, a priest or a mage, or especially if all the classes got changes. I see Hunter as being gonna be weak against those classes, probably even more now than before. Where were we? Carve, third row, keystone, sweeping strikes, hits all enemies for 60% weapon chance. But it's just cooldown with multi-shot. But it's 5 targets, and with that candy, that's gonna be a lot better than multi-shot on cleave fights. And again, it's 60% damage, that's not much. Carve is the main area attack for survival hunters. It works quite differently than other melee area attacks in the fact it checks as a cone in front of you instead of changing from a target to being an area around you. Being more akin to Cone of Cold, as note. Deterrence is still in this row as an extra defensive capstone in addition to Carve. New talent, Stinging Nettle, Lacing. Your Mongoose Bite and Trigger traps now apply Serpent Sting for half the duration. The duration of Serpent Sting applied is equal to 6 seconds of it, giving you 2 ticks damage. That's a lot on AoE, not a lot on single target. But on AoE fights, when soloing stuff as a hunter, you're going to be crazy strong soloing stuff as hunter. Especially if you go for the capstone. You're still going to play the hunter like a ranged hunter. Gonna do less damage as a ranged hunter, but a shit ton more damage, because now you kite mobs constantly into your traps, which can be used in combat. So you get your freezing or your frost trap down, and you kite a shit ton of mobs into that one, and maybe you have already placed down a explosive trap. And so say you place an explosive trap, and then right after they trigger that, you place a frost trap, and then they walk into the frost trap and get snared, and by the explosive trap they get applied Serpent Sting, so you'll do a lot more AoE damage. Combine that with the Cone of Cold, you're gonna carve down mobs now. This is gonna be your new AoE mage leveling build for Hunter. This is gonna be stronger than Beast Mastery, I don't know, for leveling. This is the single target go-to. This is the AoE build, which gets unlocked probably at level 40 first. This is a lot earlier, strong, but yeah. Explosive Trap applies a sting to all targets hit on activation, further boosting your area damage. What? Sting to all targets hit on activation, boost damage capabilities. This is from this one, right? This is what they're talking about. This is not baseline, but it's on a separate line. So I was thinking, does Explosive Trap now baseline have something that applies a sting? But I think it's part of this Stinging Nettle. It must be. Now, Killer Instinct now also increase your melee critical strike damage bonus. Yes, that's what I was talking about as we went over it. Trap Mastery requires 3 points instead of 2 points. Increase the duration. Yes. And damage. New talent. Rapid Strikes. Rapid Fire. Yes. This talent integrates the old Superior Strikes talent, reducing the cooldown of strikes. Yes. Additionally, now you gain 40 attack speed from your rapid fire, which of course you have to go this way if you want to make a melee hunter build. New talent, Vicious Bite. The Mongoose Bite now deals 30% additional weapon damage. The additional increase means that the Mongoose Bite damage is increased from 60% weapon damage to 90%. That's a lot. The damage of Mongoose Bite has been split in baseline Vicious Bite to prevent ranged hunters from gaining too much close range burst, especially for player versus player scenarios, while keeping melee hunter abilities impactful if they go deep enough into the tree. But nothing really to counter in PvP. Getting Novat by a mage, doesn't really help. So the PvP balance is, dare I say, it's somewhat neglected. Developer comment, normally hunters gain 1 attack power for every point of agility. This talent allows them to scale akin to other melee damage specializations. Lightning increased the melee attack power. Oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah, so 1 agility now gives 2 melee attack power instead of 1 melee attack power. Okay, yeah, equal to 100% of your agility. Yes, you basically just get 1 more attack power per agility, melee attack power, that is. So this is definitely, I think this is gonna be your PvP build, something like this, where you would probably skip mortal strikes because 6% is not enough to make an impact, but Hawkeye is good. Anyway, I got 20. Let's redo this to see if we can get something extra in here. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of this for PvP. Planning traps is hard to do in PvP because people's movements are unpredictable, or you can even charge over a trap without it triggering sometimes. So this could be useful because this is cone and it has a range. So the range is like you getting your you getting something like scatter shot in terms of your dead zone that can interrupt or give some pushback on a cast. Say a mage novas you. What do you do now as a hunter? Well, you have scatter shot if you're a ranged hunter. If you're a melee hunter, you get an 8-yard range melee ability that does some damage and can maybe give some pushback on the mages, but it's just cooldown with multi-shot. So it's if you've already used multi-shot, maybe this is going to be useless, but let's just pick it anyway. Health is always useful. Hit really depends on if you have hit already, but also resisting a nova is pretty nice. Mongoose Bite, Trigger, and Trigger Fire Traps apply a highest Serpent Sting. This can be bad, again, because of the same reason that this is bad. So you want to be able to Freezing Trap. You want to be able to Freezing Trap and gain distance, or just Freezing Trap and bandage and heal and stuff like that. And with this, if you use Mongoose Bite, then you're also applying a dot, and the dot can destroy your trap. Then I'd rather have Mongoose Bite pure as it is. I'm not going to use fire traps in PvP. Usually I'll be using, sometimes I do use fire traps. I want to melee fight a warrior or something, but usually it's just most optimal to go for Freezing Trap or Frost Trap. So I'm going to skip that. I'm going to probably go with this. I'm probably going to go with this, or am I? I need this. So, because we want to get to Untamed Trapper. Now, there are some difficult choices right here. I think for the way I would play, which is still going to be create as much distance as possible, keep your enemies at distance, because that's where you're strongest in PvP. I'd probably go for this. Hold on, maybe like this. Yeah, probably I'll go for this. It's gonna be the most bang for your buck in terms of ranged, but you're still, because you're just getting increase your melee crit, increase the critical strike chance of all attacks. Yeah, and melee critical strike damage bonus. So still want to be able to hit hard once they get close. And this is both ranged and melee crit, and this is ranged and melee damage, but this is more impactful than this for that 1 point. And then what do we do with the rest? I got 4 points left. We could do 4 points into mortal shots. We could even do 5 points into mortal shots, but lose Hawkeye. I'd probably go with this. Now I got 5 points. If I take this, I do get still aim shot, and I still have steady shot. But that is a lot of damage, plus all the damage from my melee attacks. So either it's gonna be like this, or I could also put 1 point more here, or go full on this. That's a difficult one. There's some nice things. There are some interesting choices to be made now, for sure. There are just a lot of, also, I have a lot of worries, about how this is going to pan out for PvP. And I know that Turtle WoW probably doesn't have the most focus on PvP, sadly. I think that's where the best part of the game is, and the most replayable part of the game, because what the fuck do you do once you rate it the same rate for the 50th, like 60th time or something? Are you going to keep doing that, or are you finally going to give in and start playing the game in a way that, is funny? I don't know, that's just my take. I know it's a hot take. People will likely disagree, but I prefer PvP. I think the best PvP ever made in an MMO is vanilla. It's just, yeah. If you ever dueled it or did done 1v1 or PvP on a high level, that's so interesting in vanilla. Vibrant Sting removed, yeah. I would probably prefer if they did something with Vibrant Sting. Just maybe made it, because always your choice was between Vibrant Sting or Scattershot when it comes to PvP. You would go for a half Marksmanship and then the rest into survival. And you would never pick Vibrant Sting because, one, you can't use it in combat, and it has a 2-minute cooldown. And if they change that to maybe give it a 30-second cooldown or a 1-minute cooldown, and most importantly, make it useful in combat. Make it be usable in combat, then you'd have to pick the choice. Like, the choice would be more interesting. Probably Scattershot would still win, because that's the only defensive you have in your dead zone. You can't use this in the dead zone. But at least they would have been more competitive. But they went for a melee build, which is also very interesting, for sure. And they added some stuff in here, but I wish to see more thought into PvP when it comes to the Marksmanship tree. This is just purely PvE that's been thought about when it comes to Marksmanship. A lot of damage, a lot of bleed damage, but not really much survivability. You're still gonna get clapped completely by a mage or a shadow priest or any caster for that matter, a warlock for that matter, unless they give the turns the ability to reflect spells back on the caster, which I would love for this to not only be against a defensive against melee classes, which is already like a good hunter will crush a warrior, a good hunter will crush a rogue. They don't stand a chance against you. What else is there? Melee enhancement, that doesn't even count. Maybe they do now because they did changes, but you know, yeah, that's my take. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and maybe Beast Mastery is just gonna be so strong that it's gonna trivialize everything else over here, and you're just gonna pop your bestial ref, and your pet is gonna absolutely destroy everything. That could be. We'll have to see. It's gonna be very interesting, and I'm excited anyway because, you know, I know that they're listening to the community. I know that they're making changes according to what the community wants to see. So I have a lot more faith in Turtle WoW for that reason already. So I think that's it for now. I'm gonna cover some of the other classes. I'm definitely gonna go cover both the Paladin, the Shaman, the Rogue, or the Hunter in this one. So yeah. Oh, and if you like this type of content, please do give me a like and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for the next class series video. I don't know which class I'm gonna cover yet, but when it's done, it'll be shown on the screen right here, or you can go to my YouTube channel and just search for it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Where are the turtles?
Sausage.
Where are the turtles?
Come on, guys, get out of here.
Where are the turtles? Where are they? Excuse me, I have an announcement to make. We seem to be missing a box of turtles, and we will not be leaving the premises until we obtain them. Hand over the turtles now!